astronauts aren't trained how to swallow their saliva in space?
There it is. Check it out, guys. That is so exciting. Incredible.
Hello my friends, I'm Kyle Thompson. This is Research Flat Earth. And as always, welcome back.
There's another recent article that just I found, I think it was on the 14th, and I posted it on Facebook, called "Are They Finding the Firmament?" Now, I started out with, meanwhile, as people suffering from severe cases of impenetrable cognitive dissonance who think that discussing what the Bible has to say concerning our Earth and its place in the cosmos is a waste of time, scientists at MIT may be confirming the scriptures right in front of us, for us. This is a quote from an article taken from ibtimes.com, and I've got the link there for that. It says, the Earth is protected from fast-moving killer electrons by an invisible plasma shield, which is located thousands of miles above the planet's surface, according to researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and the University of Colorado Boulder. High above the Earth's atmosphere, harmful electrons that make up the outer band of the Van Allen radiation belt travel at nearly the speed of light, pelting everything in their path. Exposure to such high-energy radiation can harm satellite electronics and pose serious health risks to astronauts. However, despite their intense energy, these electrons circling around the planet's equator cannot come below 7,200 miles from the Earth's surface due to the shield, scientists said in a study published in the journal Nature on Thursday. It's almost like these electrons are running into a glass wall in space, Daniel Baker of the University of Colorado Boulder and the study's lead author said in a statement. Somewhat like the shields created by force fields in Star Trek that were used to repel alien weapons, we are seeing an invisible shield blocking these electrons. It's an extremely puzzling phenomenon. The invisible shield, dubbed the plasmaspheric hiss, is made up of very low-frequency electromagnetic waves in the Earth's upper atmosphere. Scientific data and calculations have helped researchers deduce that the hiss deflects incoming electrons, causing them to smash into neutral gas atoms in the Earth's upper atmosphere and ultimately disappear. It's a very unusual, extraordinary, and pronounced phenomenon, John Foster, Associate Director of MIT's Haystack Observatory, said in a statement. What this tells us is if you parked a satellite or an orbiting space station with humans just inside this impenetrable barrier, you would expect them to have much longer lifetimes. That's a good thing to know. The latest study is based on data collected by NASA's Van Allen probes that are orbiting within the harsh environments of the Van Allen radiation belt. Oh, you mean the one that they just flew through, no problem, back in the 60s? In the 70s? During the study, the researchers observed an, quote, exceedingly sharp barrier, end quote, against harmful electrons, which was steady enough to withstand a solar wind shock in October 2013. To determine what could create and maintain such a barrier, the researchers considered a few possibilities, including effects from the Earth's magnetic field and radio signals from human transmitters on Earth. Oh yeah, it's our Walkman that's causing this. Whatever. And there's another article I should post, where they're saying they basically want to poke a hole or blow up or eliminate even the Van Allen belts. Okay, check this out. February 27, 2014, okay, last year. Physicists plan to wipe out Earth's Van Allen belts with radio waves. Got a depiction here of the Van Allen belts, what they look like here. It was just last year that physicists thought they had found the origin of Earth's Van Allen radiation belts. And now, a prominent group of them wants those belts dead. It's understandable given the frustration these areas of space can cause to modern astrophysicists. If you want to launch a satellite or a telescope, let alone a human being, the Van Allen belts will be a painful thorn in your side. So, says a growing group of astrophysicists, why not wipe them out altogether? It might seem odd to hear scientists propose destroying a feature of the natural world, but there is a decent scientific argument to be made that these belts provide us nothing useful and that we could lose them without a single negative effect. These guys, they think they came from monkeys, okay? This is the way the Earth is... Okay, all flat Earth globe arguments aside, okay, it's understandable, at least as far as we've been told, that there is a belt of radiation over us. And this belt of radiation apparently helps to protect us from other harmful things coming our way from the sun or what have you. You know, regardless of whether the Earth is a globe or flat, everybody seems to agree that these belts are good for us. You know, that they're doing something. They were intended to be there. This place was created with these things around us for a reason. Okay? And these knuckleheads, I think we should just blow it up. I don't really think it's important. I don't know what it does, so let's blow it up. And it's not the first time they wanted to do that. In fact, you could go do a Google search on going nuclear over the Pacific, Smithsonian.com, and learn about Starfish Prime and Operation Fishbowl and all that. It says here, knowledge of radiation in space was still fragmentary and new. It was only 4 years before that, James Van Allen, a University of Iowa physicist who had been experimenting with Geiger counters on satellites, claimed to have discovered that the Earth was encircled by a deadly band of X-rays, and that radiation from the sun hit the satellites so rapidly and furiously that the devices jammed. Van Allen announced his findings on May 1st, 1958. Go back and look at what was going on in 1956 through 58, specifically what was going on in Antarctica with Operation High Jump and Operation Deep Freeze. And then everybody pulled out of Antarctica, they all signed the Antarctic Treaty, and NASA's then created, and all of a sudden Van Allen, does this little experiment when they start shooting stuff up into space, and he finds the Van Allen belts. At a joint meeting of the National Academy of Sciences and American Physical Society, and the following day, the Chicago Tribune bannered the headline, "Radiation Belt Dims Hope of Space Travel." The story continued, "Death lurking in a belt of unexpectedly heavy radiation about 700 miles above the Earth. Today, dim man's dream of conquering outer space." Okay, so this was early on in the creation of NASA and the whole space program. This is, if it's 1958, it's even before Kennedy made his announcement to want to go to the moon. But yet 700 miles above the Earth is this thing that seems to prohibit that. There's a reason why the space shuttle never went more than 400 miles away from the Earth. And I'm going to do a whole thing on Project Orion and the problem that they're having with radiation. And I thought that other video exposed Apollo as a fraud that I produced recently, with the moon crossing in front of the Earth. And I may have been wrong about the issue of the scale. And I still believe this is a fraudulent video, so don't get me wrong. I'm not endorsing this video. I still think that there's problems with it. But if there is something that definitely, at least in my opinion, exposes the Apollo program as a fraud, it's the Orion project. The Orion project, after they retired the space shuttle, the next project that's on the board right now is called Project Orion. And they're pretty much telling you that Apollo never happened, especially when they put out videos like this talking about the Van Allen radiation belts.
We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation.
What?
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation.
One more time.
An area of dangerous radiation.
Oh. What's wrong with that radiation?
Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice. Once up and once back.
That doesn't sound good.
Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice. Once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
What? We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space? I thought this problem was solved over 40 years ago, when we sent a bunch of people in jumpsuits and tin cans through it, there and back a half dozen times. But I forgot. The Apollo guys, they were clueless regarding the radiation belt. It didn't affect them.
I don't know the distance to the Van Allen radiation belt, and if we did, it wasn't a problem. If we were going to encounter it, then we would have had to build the spacecraft and the spacesuit to not give humans a problem. You don't just build something and hope it works. You study to see what the threats are, the environment is, and then you say, how thick do I have to make the metal on the spacecraft so that going through this kind of radiation or these kind of meteoroids, it won't get hurt. And so then we build it that way.
I help manage the Orion Crew and Service Module office. We're responsible for developing the crew capsule, which is where the crew lives and works when they're in space, and the service module, which is what provides the power and the fuel and the consumables then that is plumbed over to the crew module. So right now I focus a lot of my time on the development of the life support system for the Orion Crew module. Space puts us in a different environment. When we're here on Earth, we don't realize every day we're protected by the environment around us. Our bodies are at a certain pressure, we're protected by the natural radiation shield of the Earth. And when we go out into space and we don't have that natural protection, then the engineering and the spacecraft have to provide that protection for us. We don't have the ultimate answer for radiation on Orion. We're still working on that. If we were to build Orion out of the materials we need and the sole job was to protect for the radiation environment, the vehicle would really be too heavy. So we have to balance the weight of the materials that we put on the spacecraft with how much protection it's providing the crew. So we're really looking at it from an operational perspective. If we understand a radiation event has happened, the crew will actually take shelter in the aft bay of the vehicle, which is kind of down in the back end. And we'll use some of the stowage things that are around them in that back end to kind of protect them from the radiation. We have found over the years that water is a really great radiation absorbing material. So we could do things like water that's already there in the water bags for drinking and things like that. That water could be used to shield them. As well as we've had some concepts like a water-filled vest that they could put on should they know there's an event and need to be protected.
We don't have a clue when it comes to like how to protect them from like radiation, so we're gonna just like put them up there in like water suits. Yeah, we like water suits, and like we put water all around them, so the radiation could go like into the water, and then they could drink it, and it could be like a Fantastic Four. Everybody they'll come back and be mutants when they get back. But we just got some ideas, yeah. But don't worry about it. Yeah, I know there are refugees everywhere and like people are starving and stuff, and like we have homeless all over the place. But if we spend like a few $1 trillion, I think we should be able to figure out how to make water suits for the astronauts in space. And then maybe it'll work out like it did for the guys in Apollo.
The belts are 1,000 miles to 25,000 miles above the Earth.
We went right out through them.
No effects on your cells?
We didn't even know it. I don't think anybody, well, maybe somebody said you went through the radiation belt, but we didn't feel it inside, and we didn't get any, added radiation.
Yeah, if you pretend that it's not really there, then you can just go right through it.
So apparently you had this magic window of time, because now Orion's still very much concerned about it. We've got to solve this challenge before we can put people through it. And yet even before Mercury and Gemini, they were very concerned about it and trying to figure out how to solve the problem, as evidenced in this Smithsonian.com article. News of the hot band of peril immediately cast doubt on whether Leica, the Russian dog, would have been able to survive for a week in space aboard Sputnik 2, as the Soviets claimed in November of 1957. The Soviets said that after 6 days, the dog's oxygen ran out and he was euthanized with poisoned food. It was later learned that Laika, the first live animal to be launched into space, died just hours after the launch from overheating and stress, when a malfunction in the capsule caused the temperature to rise. What Van Allen had discovered were the bands of high-energy particles that were held in place by strong magnetic fields and soon known as the Van Allen belts. A year later, he appeared on the cover of Time magazine as he opened an entirely new field of research, magnetospheric physics, and catapulted the United States into the race to space with the Soviet Union. On the same day, Van Allen held his press conference in May 1958. He agreed to cooperate with the United States military on a top-secret project. The plan? To send atomic bombs into space in an attempt to blow up the Van Allen belts, or to at least disrupt them with a massive blast of nuclear energy. Okay, guys, read up on this stuff, all right? This is Smithsonian.com. Check that out. There's another good article on NPR. You can look up a very scary light show, exploding H-bombs in space. And when they talk about this, and they got a video here showing footage of Operation Fishbowl, which is a very interesting title for after they find something in Antarctica, which the flat earthers would say is the outer rim of the circle of the Earth, and everybody pulls out. All of a sudden, NASA's created, and right after that, they start shooting up rockets into space with nuclear warheads on them, and this is what you start seeing with Operation Fishbowl. Operation Fishbowl. Really? I mean, it looks like they found something in Antarctica and they said, oh, what is this? Wonder how high it is. How high does this thing go? And they start blowing off nuclear bombs in the atmosphere. Now, were they doing that because they were testing the firmament? Were they trying to blast through the firmament? Or is it about the Van Allen belt with the radiation? Is that the problem? I don't know. This article goes on to describe, again, the Van Allen energy belts and what they came to understand about them, and discover it, then blow it up. The plan was to send rockets hundreds of miles up, higher than the Earth's atmosphere, and then detonate nuclear weapons to see, A, if a bomb's radiation would make it harder to see what was up there, like incoming Russian missiles, B, if an explosion would do any damage to objects nearby, C, if the Van Allen belts would move a blast down the bands to an earthly target, Moscow, for example, and most peculiar, D, if a man-made explosion might alter the natural shape of the belts. The scientific basis for these proposals is not clear. Fleming is trying to figure out if Van Allen had any theoretical reason to suppose the military could use the Van Allen belts to attack a hostile nation. He supposes that at the height of the Cold War, the most pressing argument for a military experiment was, if we don't do it, the Russians will. And indeed, the Russians did test atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs in space. No big surprise, they were also down there in Antarctica prior. And oh, by the way, while we supposedly got ahead of them and started to beat them in the alleged space race, you know, we're led to believe they just, we lost and they gave up. No, they sent something like 40 missions down to Antarctica while we were playing around with the so-called Apollo space program. So something's going on here, and these psychopaths, you know, they look up there, they see something, oh, that looks cool, let's blow it up. Oh, we don't really think it's important. Even though they have admitted that they know it's there for our protection, why do we put our fate into the hands of monkey men? These people think they came from monkeys, for crying out loud. And they hold within their grasp technology that could make life for us here on Earth very bad when they do things like they're attempting to do at CERN, to rip holes in the fabric of time and space and recreate what they think is the Big Bang, opening up portals to interdimensional, realms. And now keep in mind, these monkey men think that the whole universe got here when a microscopic dot exploded. So what are they doing? They're slamming microscopic dots together, trying to recreate the Big Bang. I don't really think it takes a very high IQ to think that through. Wait a minute. You think we got here from a microscopic dot exploding, and now you're slamming microscopic dots together, trying to explode them and recreate the Big Bang. Hello? Guys, maybe there's a reason why they put the Hindu god Shiva, the god of destruction, dancing in a portal outside their front freaking door. Bunch of lunatics. And meanwhile, elsewhere, a bunch of other lunatic psychopaths are thinking they can poke holes or blow up the Van Allen belt, the very thing that's up there, put there for our protection. People out there thinking I'm crazy. Anyway, let's go back to the original ibtimes.com article regarding the invisible plasma shield. The last quote here says, "It's like looking at the phenomenon with new eyes, with a new set of instrumentation, which give us the detail to say, yes, there is this hard, fast boundary," Foster said. Have they found the firmament? I don't know. I mean, it's not exactly the description of the firmament, but if it's not the firmament, it may be one of the heavens and the layers below it. But whatever the case may be, the choice of words being used, as I've stressed here in bold above, seems more than interesting to me. A hard, fast boundary that is an impenetrable barrier out there about 7,200 miles up? Note also the repeated statements about how harsh space is and in and beyond the Van Allen belts. And yet we were told NASA sent a bunch of guys in jumpsuits and a tin can through it 12 times round trip on at least a half dozen alleged missions to the moon. Job 37:18 says, "Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong as a molten looking glass?" Amos 9:6 in the New American Standard Bible says, "The one who builds his upper chambers in the heavens and has founded his vaulted dome over the earth. He who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth, the Lord is his name." There may yet be a legitimate reason people are going back to the scriptures in order to see and test/prove 1 Thessalonians 5:21 the truth for themselves.
12 minutes. In the space of that 12 minutes, the earth was rotating one way. Within the next 6 minutes, the earth rotated the opposite direction. It is, and that's just one of the inconsistencies. Now, I know what the truth is in this life. I've lived enough and I know enough what is truth. When the truth never needs defending. And when I finally had some questions in my mind that says, hang on, did they go to the moon? What's all this? The inconsistencies about what they tell you they did is the truth never needs defending. The flat earth, water, always, the ocean, always level. I've sailed across it, flown across it. I don't need to defend it. It's the truth.
Okay, look, Johnny, here's an experiment you can do on the beach at Byron Bay that might help, show you pretty clearly that the get your binoculars out and just look out to sea and have a look at boats on the horizon. You'll see the boats that are further away from you dip below the horizon. It's really a very simple concept. It's just scale. The further away things are, the further along the curve they are, and they disappear out of view.
So we've got the P900. Everyone's familiar with that, one of the most amazing cameras that's come out. Before the P900, when people didn't have access to scanning the beach, looking, and the horizon is completely nothing there. You zoom in with a P900 and you can bring that boat up. Now, before that, if there was a boat...
No, you can't. No, you can't. And you don't need a P900. You can do it with a mobile phone on a telescope. You can do it with binoculars. These are not isolated examples. Here's an example in Spain where 20 kilometers away, because you can't look more than about 17 kilometers. That's when, from about standing height, the edge of the curve goes out from around you. So you can't see the bottom of these buildings here, which are on another piece of land in Spain off in the distance. Here again is another example that you don't even need, you don't even need two boats. This is the difference between simply standing up and sitting down. Image with the same camera, standing up and sitting down. And the difference of 4 feet shows you the curvature of the Earth. How simple does this have to be?
It does seem simple, yes. And I can simply explain the opposite. And that's what's really such and then this is one example, and I've spent 2 years seeing that, and that's exactly what you just said. I absolutely would not have questioned, but when I did question, and I've seen as much evidence as you can throw at me, I can equally throw you equal evidence to the opposite. Everything about the flat Earth and the globe model, it's an unbelievably big subject, and we can go on and debate these things.
We can go on. Here's another one where a guy sent a sex doll into space using a weather balloon. Now, you can pay a bunch of high school students to send your business card into space if you want to, and they'll just take a weather balloon and send it up there. And you can clearly see the curvature of the Earth. You don't have to rely on NASA.
Yes, you can see the curvature. Now, Dylan, 4 days ago, just before that, now everyone's familiar with Mythbusters. Mythbusters got in a high altitude plane. Now this is classic. They went up to 75,000 feet and dipped the plane down, looked out the window and said, well, would you look at that? Would you look at all of that curvature? Now someone looked at that and he straightened up, and when he looked straight on and behind him, no curvature in the back view. But this guy took it a step further. He just launched 4 days ago a hot air balloon and went 25,000 feet above that plane from the Mythbusters. Took it to 100,000 feet with this balloon, and he had 2 cameras on his balloon. He had a fisheye lens and a lens that was as close to the human eye as possible, simultaneously casting it on the internet now. And he showed the footage of Mythbusters when he's going, oh my God, look at the curvature. You're watching TV. It must be true. And 4 days later, it was absolute Mythbusters. There you go. I would have watched that 2 years ago and thought, well, fuck these, flat tards, whatever. And that was bullshit. How do you explain that?
Johnny, if the lens is an issue, then the object in front of the camera will also be distorted. This looks like a pretty normal Lego minifig to me.
What?
These are high schoolers just sent up a Lego into space with a camera. You can see the curvature of the Earth. If the lens was causing the distortion, if the lens was causing the curvature of the Earth, you would also see the same distortion in the figure. Same as with the sex doll. That's why we have something in frame here, so you can see that the lens isn't distorting anything. Now, if a 12-year-old can do this, how are they in on the conspiracy? How is NASA paying them? What is the point? I guess is what I'm saying. What is the point? The world being flat and then being hidden from us as some sort of agnostic, truth.
So first of all, most of us aren't in on any conspiracy. We're just being deceived.
I get that. I'm asking you what the point of the original conspiracy is. What is the point of NASA lying and doing all this? And what is the point of the Earth being flat and then us being told it's not?
Well, it's that fundamental question. It's from what I understand, it's a very controlling thing. When you tell people that the Earth is round, you're controlling them and screwing with their minds and that. And so, I mean, it's beyond me to comprehend that. I can understand what's happened. I've seen the lie. But when they control, I mean, you imagine.
Who? America?
Pardon?
NASA is an American organization. Do you think this is a NASA American state-based conspiracy?
No, I'm not. It's not a conspiracy. The word is too loaded. It's not. It's either truth or it's not. And when you see that someone
is hiding the truth from us at a governmental level, that's a conspiracy by the very literal definition of the word.
conspiracy. So I look into finding out for myself what is the truth in my experience. There's no one ever in the last 2 years been able to prove how water can curve around a ball.
Hang on. I asked you what the point of this hidden truth is. What is the point? And you're giving me some vague answer about control. What's the point?
Well, from my point of view, it's almost religious, because when NASA says that there's all this infinite space and we came from a big bang, or all the story that comes with it, that denies what the other side of that story is, not religious, but that everything was created. They're the two stories running in this society with people's minds. You either believe in a big bang, or you believe in a God that created everything, or a big bang that everything was random and everything's randomly happening. We've randomly got a phone here to talk on. And so someone's got hold of and says, well, hang on, we're going to control everybody through the TV, through the media, because we own it all, through the governments, through everything, right at the top. Because when you see the lie, everything under that lie is deception.
Hang on. There are two groups of people, some that believe in creation and some believe in the science Big Bang Theory. If someone's trying to control us all, they're not doing a very good job of it, considering there are two opposing viewpoints.
It's fucking brilliant. They fucked everyone over. It's unbelievable when you see the lie.
I still can't see the point. What is the point of doing that?
Because it hides something. It hides the creation. It hides a God. It hides something, whatever. It's not even a something. This is just life. It was created. They've controlled us so much that we all believe in a big bang. It was randomly. Reality is here. I can see reality right looking at it. But when we go in our minds, because they control our minds and tell us all
whoa. This is getting pretty out there. Let me just get this straight. You think that we're being told that the Earth is round, and that light is coming from stars and the Big Bang and science and all that, in order to hide the truth that there is God and that God is real? Is that what you're saying?
Really? Because if there is a God, they're doing a pretty good goddamn job of hiding it, aren't they?
Well, no, not really, considering that religion is way more dominant than unbelief.
Well, that's good to hear, but not when NASA puts it all through the TV and tells us otherwise.
NASA is an American agency. Do you think that the Americans are trying to cover up the existence of God?
When you look into it, from what I've seen, absolutely, because they are an entity unto their own. And when you see how it all spreads out, how it's all, I mean, this has been the most fascinating 2 years of my life. No, I don't want the Earth to be flat or round, or there to be some cover up. All I've done from the very beginning is have the most open mind, not caring either way, and coming to my own intelligent conclusions.
But just to be clear, you think the country that is having trouble even holding an election without having their emails revealed has managed to conspire to hide the reality of a flat Earth?
They're absolutely so dumb. You name whoever under the original people who control, and there's only a few people, an organization, a cult, whatever you want to call it, and you can find it's a labyrinth, but anyway, the ones at the top, all the puppets, everyone underneath doesn't know they're being deceived. So they can be thicker, intelligent scientists, rocket science underneath the original lie. We believe the deception. We believe anything we're told. We believe some mathematics or some science. We believe this. The picture you show me is real. For me, I thought that was absolutely the truth.
Well, that's not how the scientific method works. The scientific method is just you have data, and when the data works, everyone has a discussion about it. They peer review it, and when it becomes something that you really can't explain any other way, you have a solid theory. Now, there are areas of science which are still contentious. People still have different issues on the level of climate change and human-based climate change. But this is not one of those areas, Johnny, which is what strikes me as fascinating, is that this is really so simple to prove to yourself on the beach, to prove to yourself with your own camera. Have you ever gone out and done any of this yourself? Have you ever flown your own weather balloon? Have a look.
Instant, Dylan. Dylan, you're sitting there in a chair right now. Can you feel the Earth rotating?
You do know how relativity works, yeah?
No, I'm going to keep this really simple.
Yeah, I can keep it really simple too. You could fall out of you can fall down an elevator shaft, and if the elevator is going at the same rate that you're going, everything will appear still to you. It's a very simple Einstein's theory of relativity.
Dylan, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. I know you're look, Dylan. Right now, you're sitting there. Can you feel the Earth moving or rotating?
Everything is moving around me at the same time, including the air around me. It's not like the air is going to whoosh past my hair.
Dylan, I'm going to be so simple here. Answer the question. You just have to answer it. Can you feel the motion?
No, of course not. In the same way that a bacteria in the ocean can't feel the flow of the sea.
Reality does not need defending. I stay here, so true. Every day of my life, it has never, ever moved. Now you need to go off into explanation. You need to go off into science. You need to go off into space. You need to go to NASA with their pictures and live feeds. It does not move.
You know what, Johnny? They say, you know, atheists say the best way to convince someone else to become an atheist is to get them to actually read the Bible. The best way to convince people that the Earth is actually round is to listen to a flat earther. You've had a good platform here, and I think you've done a good service for us all. I have to go back to work now, but thank you for your time, and I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Thank you. So have I, actually, and thanks for the opportunity. It's been good. Thank you.
No worries. Catch you later.
All right, John. Thank you. See ya.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today I want to take time to thank all the people that are subscribers to this channel. Whenever you subscribe and you pay attention, it gives a lot of encouragement, and I really want to thank each one that has taken time to do that, and that means a lot to any of us who make videos and post things like this. We really appreciate it, and I hope that it is always something that is useful and helps somebody to consider all the things that we put out there and explore these subjects. Whether we're right or wrong in some of the things we talk about, it's always good to explore the subjects. And I want to thank everybody so much for subscribing to my channel, and I want to also say a special thank you to Antarctic Warrior. He's a great YouTuber, a great flat earther, and I want to give a shout out to him. And today I want to talk about magnetism on the flat earth. That's going to be the subject that I'm going to try to discuss in some detail. Really don't know how much that I can go into this subject because there's just so much I don't know. But I do want to talk about it, and the reason is to provoke people to discuss this and to think about it and to question how things really work. The world we live in is so strange, and we think we understand it until we start to explore what we think we know. And then we find there's faults and gaps in the knowledge that we think we have. But anyway, on this little model here, this would be the North Pole at the center of the flat Earth, and this, of course, is the southern pole, the boundary, which is completely different from what you would see on the globe model. The magnetic field around our world here has got to be very strong, very powerful field. And it's really hard to say how this thing actually works because there is so many things involved in it. There's so many variables that affect this magnetic field. On our Earth, we have this huge body of salt water that surrounds the flat Earth. And this water is in motion. And that makes it become electrical when it's in motion. But as the tides move in and out, it causes some sort of an electrical current in this body of water. And that could be something that contributes to how the field works. Also, you have the sun and the moon that revolve around this. And the whole thing seems to work in two ways. One, it works like a clock. And the sun repeats the pattern and the moon repeats the pattern around the flat Earth. And it works just like a clock. And Gleason's map shows this probably better than any map out there, how the flat Earth works like a clock. And then, on the other hand, it works a lot like an electric motor. When you consider all the energy from the sun that's put into the atmosphere, and you have all the energy in the oceans and in the water, all the minerals that are in the earth itself, it works a lot like an electric motor. Now, if you move from, say, down here in the south, and you're using your compass, and you move to the north, as you enter into the Arctic Circle up here, the compass begins to behave in an odd way. It'll start to spin and form all sorts of weird circles and do all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's just not accurate because everywhere here is north. And the field just kind of goes crazy. Now, when you get down to the southern pole, down here to the South Pole, which I can show it out this way, things are completely different. When you try to search for information about how magnetism works at the South Pole, there's just not very much out there to find. I've tried to do some research into this. I wanted to find some compasses that are made for this area, and they are very hard to find. I wanted to study about how the Southern Pole works and all these things, and it's just hard to find information about this. So at this point, I'm going to speculate and just give my own ideas here, and everything that I'm about to say can be completely wrong. I'm going to admit that before I even start, that everything I'm saying here can be completely wrong, but it may be also true. If the Earth being a flat disk and working like a flat magnet, like a donut magnet, then the fields may react funny depending on where you are on this Earth. For instance, this field may not be as strong as the field in the south. And this is just my own opinion, but I believe that the southern magnetic field may be the stronger field of the two, or at least in size, it's larger, and I believe that it is actually stronger. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because of the shape. I just don't know. But anybody that can explain this any better, I mean, I'm willing to listen. I know a lot of you people out there are too. We want to learn. We want to understand how all these things work. But I believe that this field, this electrical field out here, is stronger than the North Pole. Now, other flat earthers, they say that that the North Pole is the only magnetic field, and there isn't one down here. I don't agree with that. They may be right, but I really don't agree with that. I need someone to prove that to me in a better way, because if you have a North Pole, you always have a South Pole someplace. But anyway, I would love to see other flat earthers do research into this subject and explain this in better ways than what I can even dare to do. But this field is, it's hard to say really. It may be created by the sun revolving around the earth and creating an electrical field above the earth and interacting with the water down here, interacting with the salt water. Could be, and it could not be. I may be completely wrong on that too, but anyway, those of you out there who have very scientific minds and understand magnetism and electrical fields in water could probably explain this really well. I will show you an example here of a disc magnet or donut magnet, and I'm going to try to do a small experiment, and my experiment may not mean anything. I don't know, because I'm still learning just like a lot of you people are. But I want to give you something to think about here. And I'll have to readjust my camera just a little. Okay. Now here is a disc magnet, and it looks a lot like the picture I've been showing you. If you take a needle and you try to bend it toward the center, which would be the North Pole, if you notice it begins to spin like the compasses do. And when you go this way, it seems the pull is even stronger. At least in my opinion. I may be wrong about this, but it seems the pull is even stronger at the edge. Now, what I've tried to do, I've actually tried to make this needle come on the inside of this circle and attach itself. But when I release it, even when it's leaned forward toward me, it flies back to the edge. It goes to the outer edge. So that's where I got my opinion that the outer edge is the stronger part of the magnet, or magnetism. So let's try this again to show you that we'll do that every time. And there it is. It goes to the edge. I don't know why that happens, but it does. It always goes to the edge. It doesn't matter if I try to lean it in, it still goes to the very edge of this. Now, maybe this means something in the flat earth model. I don't know. I cannot be sure. I just don't know enough about it. But I'm saying there's a possibility that the outer edge could be stronger. They say it affects the compasses different down there. I've heard people say that you cannot take a compass that's made for the northern hemisphere and get it to work at all or to function correctly in the southern hemisphere, that weird things happen. I haven't been there. I haven't tried that. I don't know. I can't verify it or deny it. But I have heard others talk about it, and they say something weird happens with compasses in the southern hemisphere. And this little experiment makes me believe that that's very true. When I try to pull this needle toward the center and release it, it ends up on the edge. So some of you people out there may have a lot of ideas on this. You may be able to explain all this in a far better way than what I can. But anyway, I've been thinking about this for some time, and I wanted to put it out there and let it be something to consider as we all study this subject. I wish we all knew the answers, but we don't. We have to work on it from whatever angle that is available to us and do our own experiments and tests and all these things. Some time ago, a person was criticizing me on the internet and told me that I needed to learn how to use a compass. Well, I didn't bother to argue with the person that was making the comment. I didn't even respond to it. But as far as compasses are concerned, I do know a little something about compasses. I actually like to use compasses, and these are just a few of the ones that I own. This one with the wristband, that's a small compass that you wear when you hike in the woods or whatever. It's really useful. First time I ever used it, I really liked this compass. It's one of those jobs from eBay. It wasn't very expensive, but it's really, really nice. And this one, let me get this down here. This compass is your base plate compass. A lot of people talks about these when they teach how to use maps and all that stuff. And they're a very nice compass. And here is a compass I've never seen on YouTube. And this one I ordered from eBay also. It's a base plate compass that's also a sight compass. Now you will get some sun reflection off the glass, the glare, and I don't like that. But for a map compass, this thing is really awesome. You can put it down there and it gives you about 6 inches to work with on the base plate. And this other one is a, oh, I cannot remember the name, I'm sorry, a military type compass. And the thing I like about this one is it has this little viewfinder that you can look into and see the degrees. It's really great. I like this one. And one more thing that I'll mention here, but I'm not going to go into this subject, but I will show you an example of it. This is a solar compass that I have been working with for some time, and it looks very simple, so simple that you can laugh about it. It doesn't look like much of anything, but I promise you this works. And if you need to know your direction for north, this will show you north. And it's all about 90-degree angles and how you align the shadow from the sun. You don't have to put sticks in the ground. You don't have to wait 15 minutes to take a reading if the sun is out. All you need to know is if it is before noon or afternoon. That is to use this. If you know the time of day, you can get a very accurate reading on north with this. As strange as this thing appears, it actually works. I've never seen anybody else use anything like this. And I came up with it on my own because I wanted to find a solar compass that was reliable, and the others that I have seen just didn't work the way that I would like for them to. So I studied the subject for a while, and I discovered that it was possible to find north very easily using a solar compass. And it seems to work any time of the year, winter or summer. I've tested it in the winter and the summer, and it seems to work just fine. And I think it would work below the equator just as good, but it would just be facing, the shadow would be facing in a different direction, of course, but that could be worked out very easily. Anyway, I know I'm off subject here with all this, but it does relate a little bit to what I'm talking about. Okay, now back to this. For all you people out there that are studying about the flat earth and how things work, we need to know how this magnetic field works. We need to understand this, and I'm sure there's other people out there that can really hone in on this and discover things that I don't even know how to comprehend. So I wanted to put this little piece of information out there, and I hope you enjoy it. Like and subscribe, and I really appreciate all the subscribers that have subscribed to my channel. In the future, I'm going to create other videos that are more Bible related, and I'm going to deviate away from the flat earth subject and probably do a study on the tabernacle in the wilderness. And I hope you enjoy that, because I plan some very interesting things with that. So for now, God bless, and everyone have a good day.
If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you haven't subscribed, hit the red subscribe button. Also click on the little bell icon to get notifications of my flat earth videos, which I upload every day.